Hello everyone, Tom Island again. Thank you for clicking on the next video. If you've been watching, if this is your first time seeing a video from me, make sure to view the previous 5 tips for telling and you'll make sense of what's about to be told next. We're now at the climax of Tom's tips for telling as I tell you Tom's tip number 6. This is, again, tips for telling your child about his or her autism diagnosis. Tom's tip number 6. Tell them that it's called Autism Spectrum Disorder. Tell them that it's called Autism Spectrum Disorder. Now, notice I say tell them it's called autism versus telling the child you're autistic. That could come off as offensive, or they may think they're sick, or that they're possessed, or that there's a disease in them. And eventually you'll have to say that autistic means you have autism. So start by saying you have autism, or this pattern of differences we established in the previous tips. It's called Autism Spectrum Disorder. So leave autistic out of the conversation for the moment if you choose. And I'll touch briefly on person first language versus identity first language. The difference between the two. Person first language is noticing that you are a living, breathing human being first and foremost. For instance, Tom has autism, or I have autism, or I am a person on the spectrum. It keeps the humanity factor in play. Then you look at identity first language, where you say Tom is autistic, or he's autistic, or he is an autistic. It's like you've taken the humanity factor, the living, breathing person, out of the equation, and now you're viewing the person as a diagnosis or a label, if you will. So I hope you will consider using person first language as my family did in our household, and that made a huge difference in my personal development because I saw that I was a person first and foremost. My diagnosis does not have to define me, and it's not going to hold me back. So I encourage you, tell them it's called autism rather than say you're autistic. You might be surprised at the results or the reaction that happens after that. We're going to get to tip number 7 in a second, but thank you again for listening. ThomasIsland, ILAND.com for my website. See you for the next tip.